A small German car shows up on the world stage and instantly fools almost everyone. A silhouette so curvy, so exotic, so stylish, it left people convinced they were looking at the next European performance monster. Except it wasn't. Under that beautiful skin, the soul of a Volkswagen Beetle. Yup, the same car your grandma used to buy groceries in. The 1955 Volkswagen Karmann Ghia pulled off a con so smooth, even the car press didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or hand over their wallets. But here's the crazy part. This wasn't an accident. It was a plan. A plan so clever, so bizarre, and so full of contradictions that it remains one of the most misunderstood cars in automotive history. And today on AbTech Lab, we're diving deep into the shocking secrets behind this timeless beauty. But first, smash that subscribe button like you're slamming the trunk on a Karmann Ghia that just stalled uphill in traffic. Let's go. And trust me, you'll want to stick around, because what's buried beneath that iconic bodywork will blow your carburetor off. Let's start with the basics. The Karmann Ghia looks like a love child between a Porsche 356 and a Ferrari 250, but underneath, it was all Volkswagen. The chassis and drivetrain came straight from the humble Type 1 Beetle. Engine 1.2L air-cooled flat 4, horsepower 36 GP, torque 60 nanometers, 0-60 miles per hour, nearly 33 seconds, top speed about 71 miles per hour, downhill with a tailwind and a prayer. That's not sporty, that's adorable. But what makes the Ghia so fascinating is that it knew it wasn't sporty. It didn't care, because it had something else, presence, and a backstory involving not just VW, but an Italian coach builder and a German craftsman that took insanity-level patience to pull off. And what's even crazier, the whole thing started from a design that wasn't even meant for Volkswagen. We'll get to that next. Here's a plot twist that most people don't know. The Karmann Ghia's iconic body wasn't originally designed for VW. Back in the early 50s, Italian design house Ghia had sketched up a sleek coupe body for Chrysler. Yes, Chrysler. But the concept never went anywhere. That's when Wilhelm Karmann, a German coach builder working closely with Volkswagen, approached Ghia and said, "Hey, got any sexy designs lying around that we can slap onto a Beetle?" Ghia dusted off that unused sketch. With a few tweaks, it was moulded onto the Beetle's floor pan. And the moment Wilhelm Karmann saw it, he knew. This will sell. Volkswagen approved it almost instantly. It was something they had never done. A style-driven car. But the real scandal? Chrysler fans later claimed that the Ghia design was borrowed without full consent. The receipts are blurry, but the drama, oh, it's juicy. But the design was just the beginning. The way this car was built was an absolute masterclass in handcrafted madness. That's what we'll talk about next. Today, we think of Volkswagen as a symbol of precision and mass production. But the 1955 Karmann Ghia? That thing was a handmade beast. The body panels were shaped and welded by hand. Every curve, every line had to be visually perfect. This wasn't a car you could just pump out of a machine, and it showed. Building a Ghia took so much time that VW had to increase its price several times over its lifespan. They just couldn't keep up. Think about it. The Beetle was cheap to make, the Karmann Ghia. It was like sculpting a statue and then asking it to drive. Mechanics hated repairing them because no two were exactly the same. You know, you've got something special when even your local mechanic's like, "Bro, I don't have time for this piece of art." But all this effort had a darker side, because with beauty came fragility. And what we're about to uncover, it's the part they definitely didn't put in the brochures. Let's talk about the elephant in the engine bay, safety. The Karmann Ghia may have been built with love, but protection, not so much. The body was paper thin. There were no crumple zones. And airbags? Pfft, this was the 50s. You were lucky if your seatbelt didn't come loose mid-drive. In crash tests, the front end folded like a taco shell. And the rear-mounted engine, it would occasionally join you in the front seat in a collision. But guess what? People still bought it. Why? Because safety didn't sell. Style did. It's like buying a glass vase to use as a football helmet. Looks amazing. Until it doesn't. But let's pause for a quick breather. because coming up next is one of the most surprising parts of the Karmann Ghia story, the secret second identity it had overseas. Now this is wild. While Europe and the US were swooning over the coupe, Brazil had its own unique twist, the Karmann Ghia TC. Launched in 1972, the Brazilian TC, touring coupe, had a sportier, more aggressive look, and none of the European markets got it. It was based on the VW Type 3 platform with a slightly larger engine, 1.6L flat 4, producing 65 horsepower. That may not sound like much, but by Ghia standards, that's basically turbocharged. Brazilian designers gave it unique headlights, a more angular roofline, and a rear that made it look like a 911 that had just discovered samba. So, while Europe thought the Ghia was dying out, in Brazil, it was throwing a farewell party with maracas. And speaking of farewells, what eventually killed the Karmann Ghia was something no one saw coming. We're diving into that next. So, what killed the Karmann Ghia? Simple answer, progress. By the mid-70s, safety regulations were tightening, consumers wanted more power, and styling trends were shifting from curves to hard angles. Enter the VW Scirocco, a newer, sportier, more modern coupe with front-wheel drive and more practical engineering. The Ghia, with its hand-built body and Beetle DNA, was a relic by then. Expensive to produce, outdated in performance, unsafe by modern standards. Volkswagen finally pulled the plug in 1974, after nearly 445,000 coupes and 81,000 convertibles had been sold globally. But death wasn't the end, because the Ghia's legacy would inspire generations of designers and one day become one of the most collectible VWs of all time. And that brings us to the final, most ironic twist in the Karmann Ghia story. How it went from slow Beetle in disguise to a modern-day collector's goldmine. Here's the irony. For decades, the Karmann Ghia was treated as the poser of the car world. It wasn't fast, it wasn't rare, it wasn't even taken seriously by car guys. But today, try buying a restored 55 Karmann Ghia. You're looking at $30,000 to $80,000, depending on condition, and that's if you're lucky. Collectors now worship its handmade beauty, its historical value, and the very uniqueness that once made it uncool. Some even modify them with Porsche engines. Others restore them down to the last screw, and younger generations, they don't see a poser, they see timeless elegance. And let's be honest, anything that can make a 36 horsepower car feel exciting deserves a place in automotive history. But more than its design, more than its numbers, the Ghia leaves behind something rarer, a lesson. And that's what we'll close with. The 1955 Karmann Ghia wasn't about horsepower, or speed, or domination. It was about style, about identity, about making people feel like they were part of something more beautiful. It proved that you don't need to be the fastest to leave a lasting impression. And in a world obsessed with specs, torque, and 0 to 60 times, the Karmann Ghia is a reminder that how you look, how you feel, and how you present yourself can matter just as much, if not more. So next time you see one on the street or at a car show, don't laugh at its horsepower. Salute it, because it fooled the world, and did it beautifully. If you enjoyed this deep dive, slam that like button like you're shifting into gear with a broken clutch. And don't forget to subscribe to AB Tech Lab for more car legends, forgotten stories, and shocking secrets the industry doesn't want you to know. Until next time, stay curious, stay classic, and remember, sometimes the slowest cars have the fastest way into your heart.